Often when we receive data into a spreadsheet, it's broken into separate columns and we need to join it back together. I've got a sheet open called Ampersand in the file Excel 2. And as you can see in column A, there's some first names listed, and in column B, there's some last names listed. And they're in separate columns. What I want to do in column C is use a formula to join the first name and the last name together. So in C2, I'll go equals A2, and then I'll use ampersand. Ampersand is the character above the 7 on the keyboard. So I'll hold the Shift key and I'll hit ampersand. I want A2 and B2 because I want to join together Sue and Jones. When I press enter, I end up with Sue Jones, but I've got no space in between Sue and Jones. So I'm going to make a modification to this formula. I need A2 and double quote space double quote and B2. So I'm now joining not two things together, but three things together. I'm joining A2 and a space and B2. And a space, as mentioned in an earlier video, can only exist in a formula if it resides within double quotes. So when I press enter, I get Sue space Jones. And I can double click the thin black cross and fill that down. So the purpose of the ampersand above the 7 on your keyboard is to join cells together. Now that I've acquired my full names, I'd like to get rid of columns A and B. But of course, as soon as I do that, I'll get a ref error because the formulas are looking for the first name and the last name in A2 and B2, and I've just deleted them. So before I can get rid of columns A and B, I actually have to convert the formulas to values. I'd like to highlight C2 to C8, which all of those cells contain a formula. I'd like to copy what's in those cells, and then I'd like to immediately right-click and paste values. The Paste Values button has a little black 1, 2, 3 at the bottom of the clipboard, so I'm going to click on Values. I can then press Escape to get rid of the wiggle, but notice now as you click on any of these cells and look up in the formula bar, there is no formula behind these cells anymore. We copied what were the results of the formula and overwrote the formula with the values. The whole reason being I can now select columns A and B, and I can now delete those columns and not get a ref error because there's no longer formulas in column A. We can also use the ampersand to join together text and the content of various cells. For example, in D10 I'm going to go equals and I'm going to add some text. Stream population 4. And there's a space after the 4. Then I'm going to press double quote. So that's one piece of text there surrounded in double quotes. And what's in E5? So that's stream population 4 brook trout. And then I'm going to add a space and what's in E2 and double quote space is space double quote and E8 and double quote per mile double quote. So I'm actually stringing together 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things. Stream population for brook trout species is 32 per mile. If I was to change the data in various cells, the sentence would update. So instead of brook trout, I might go for rainbow trout. And rainbow trout is a little bit more common, so I'll go 50 per mile. Stream population for rainbow trout is 50 per mile. So the ampersand is very good for stringing things together. Now sometimes we want to convert what we have in a cell to uppercase or lowercase or what have you. I'm going to click on this formula in D10. I'm going to click immediately after the equals and I'm going to press U, which triggers the functions beginning with U. I'll then double click upper and I'll press enter. And that converts Stream population for brook trout species is 50 per mile to uppercase. If I want to convert the sentence to lowercase, I'll double click upper and I'll type LO and I'll double click lower. When I press enter, the sentence is now in lowercase. If I want to replace lower with proper, I'll double click lower, put PR, and I'll double click proper. And what proper does, as it indicates here, is it converts a string to proper case, the first letter in each word to uppercase and all the other letters in a word to lowercase. Stream population for rainbow trout species is 50 per mile. So you can convert something to uppercase, lowercase, or proper case. Now the other thing is, not only do we often want to join things together with the use of ampersand, but we also often want to split things apart. Let's say, for example, I want to split these names, these full names, into separate columns. I'm going to highlight A2 to A8. I'll go to Data in the ribbon, and I'll use the button Text to Columns. And it actually explains it really well in the screen tip. It splits a single column of text into multiple columns. For example, you can separate a column of full names into separate first and last name columns. If I was to click this button, a wizard appears, and I'm taken to step 1 of 3. My data in this area is delimited. That is, the first name and the last name are separated by a particular type of character. It could be a space, a comma, or a tab, and so on. So I'll accept delimited and go next. Here it says what delimits your first name from your last name, and when you choose what it is, a line will appear in this data preview. Well, it's not a tab that separates Sue from Jones, so I'll take that off. It's a space, so I'll tick that. And as soon as I tick space, immediately a line appears, indicating that that's where it will split my data. So then I go next to the third and final step. At this point, it wants to know where's your destination. I'm going to drag over this and I'm going to click, say, on D14 and finish. And so it will place the first names in D and the last names in E. And so I've effectively split my text into columns. Use ampersand to join and use the text to columns button on the data tab to split.